Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I'm super excited to announce this. Obviously this is being recorded. We're going to put this on our YouTube channel, but let's start off, Jessica, with because this is a story I've already repeated before, but when we launched the beta testing of this massing, one of the agents, I don't want to name or even the brokerage, but one of the agents was like, what is a KTGY, right? So I'm glad we are going to give opportunities for you guys to at least answer that question. So maybe if you want to start off with kind of what is KTGY?
Great, thank you. So KTGY, so we are a national design and urban planning firm. So we're headquartered in Southern California. We were founded in 1991. Locally, we office in the Trust Building in downtown LA on Spring Street. And we're looking forward to moving back to our office soon. So our background, so we really got our start in residential home building. And then now we're designing everything from, hospitality developments in high-rise buildings. We've got a strong foothold in modular, probably the leading firm that is exploring modular in LA, and Mark Oberholzer, who's on the call, is leading most of those developments. In addition to modular, trying to be pioneers in other innovative construction methods, whether it's mass timber or light gauge proprietary steel systems, and continuing to grow into designing communities in the urban fabric. And then so we're excited about this partnership with Brickwork to speed up development, especially with residential, since we're severely lacking in residential developments in LA. And with this tool, it's a great collaboration so that we can help to vet properties a bit more quickly. And Mark will expand into the massing capabilities that we've developed to hopefully deliver more developments and more housing within the region.
Absolutely. And we're excited too. Again, I think we're so complementary. I think we start off with what you can build land use wise, but again, the next iteration to that is, well, what's physically possible, and then what's the highest ROI for that site. So yeah, so super excited. And Mark, I guess if you can now share with everyone what we have been cooking.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about it. I think that what we have in this partnership is a real kind of a quick way to assess feasibility and viability for sites. And what we're not doing is what typically happens, which is you see a site come to market, you think it might be worth looking into, you try to connect with developers, they interview 3 architects, have meetings, get proposals, weeks have gone by, and you still don't know what could fit on the site. And with the kind of speed that Brickwork can produce the zoning analysis, and the way that we have we're sort of meshing with Brick and Work to produce okay, here's what zoning lets you statutory can fit on the site, but what can you physically fit on the site? So we're overlaying things like the construction type, the site dimensions, how they affect parking stalls and parking drive aisles, and just the sort of different things that end up controlling the reality of a building you can fit on there, right? So sometimes the site is controlled by something as stupid as the parking layout. Sometimes the required open space drives the site. And so what we do all the time for developers who already have control of a site is we do something, a really detailed density study. We call it a density study or yield study, where we basically are showing how the unit mix works, how all the pieces fit together. But that's much more information than, when you're looking at a site and going, can I buy or sell this site? It's more information than you need, but you need more than just zoning says X, right? And so we're trying to kind of bridge that gap, and haven't been able to, except now in this partnership with Brick Plus Work.
Breed, I think our first property that we were looking at that you guys were helping us with was that skinny lot in downtown, which is a perfect example. It's a parking lot. That ended up being probably the easiest one to mass, right, Mark? Because you had mentioned, well, there's also a different way to view how you mass things is what you can't do. And there's so many you can't on this site in particular, which means there's a property or a building next to it. So no one's going to have a view, and it's skinny. And how are you going to park it? And we probably need automated or mechanized parking on this, right?
Right.
And it's got to be 100% affordable. So easy, right? But I think that highlighted, and then there's the obviously the more of the open envelope, which is, well, it's just, you know, a huge 3-5 acre site. What should we do on this? Now that's going to be way more difficult because then there aren't those restrictions and it's so open-ended and you need direction. But we solved that thanks to you guys, which is really getting from our beta test on that questionnaire where it goes, okay, well, you know, what do you guys want, to really honing in on what's really important for you as a broker. You know, are you trying to market to a specific developer that wants the most units on the site or most parking, you know, right? There's a lot of variables. I think you guys have helped extremely on that front so that we can at least give direction to our users.
Yeah, and I think there's some things like, I mean, you know, a very typical typology, you know, in LA and across the country is type 3A podium, right? 5 levels of residential, over 2 above grade levels, and maybe 1 subgrade parking. Well, if you have more, say, if you have more FAR or need a high parking ratio, you could keep going down in parking, right? But hardly anybody wants to do that because it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So you could design a building that works physically, but nobody's going to do it because it won't work financially. And, you know, we don't do pro formas, but we work with a lot of people who do pro formas. So we kind of know what is not going to work. And so just sort of innately, we're feeding that into the study as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. The experience that you guys have, all the developers and developments you guys are working on lends toward that kind of guidance on that massing. So, but you guys are, what I love about this partnership, and you guys in particular as well, is you're very forward thinking and progressive in trying to figure out lay of the land, what other solutions are out there that we can impart to ultimately just help overall housing and just moving things forward. And so, you know, got introduced to, you know, flex flats. So Mark, if you kind of want to discuss that, because I think for us, and for the audience and the users, what we're trying to do is figure out, or what we want to provide as value is we understand that obtaining you know, the adaptive reuse is an entitlement, right? But you do need to you know, check off on some minimum requirements. So that's in the works, and we're going to provide that because we really want to also provide, well, did you know that this site can qualify for an entitlement? Not that, you know, the developer definitely wants to do that, but I think the barrier of entry is information. So if we could provide as many options as possible, then that site might also lend toward FlexFlat. So if you want to kind of, you know, share that as well.
Yeah, sure. And this really comes out of, you know, just across different markets. I mean, we're California heavy, but we are national. And so we see lots of different trends in different markets. And sometimes we see things that push the envelope a little bit and we go, hey, what if we took that a little further? And that really was the genesis of our research and development, or R&D studio. So we take that and develop kind of on our own dime ideas that might be sort of like the next idea. So some of them include like, you know, young families living in cities, right? And you know, that's an underserved market. Everybody knows that. But what would it mean, you know, to adapt an apartment building so it's friendly to young families, right? And so we looked at that. And that's the sort of thing we're doing, looking for our clients, you know, who might not want to try things to be the first, but to really just push it a little further and see. And that's really where the Flex Flats idea came out, which is really adaptive reuse, and particularly in LA, that's a major, I mean, there's some major benefits to adaptive reuse in terms of, zoning and affordability. But because of the sort of unfortunate nexus of this year of people working from home and pandemic issues, is that there's a lot of, a lot of office building owners who are nervous, and I would be too, right? And we have looked in the past at how do you adapt office buildings to residential, and we've done a fair number. Usually they're historic buildings. So we have one in downtown Long Beach, historic office building, beautiful, from the 30s, and changed it into a memory care residential building. But modern office buildings, there's many more of those, and how could they be adapted, right? Or how could their use change long term? Not that you're flipping uses back and forth, but suppose there's a 10-year trend decrease of office space and you own a bunch of office buildings. So we were looking, okay, let's take a look at this, what it means, like a very generic, typical office building. And so we looked at how that could be adapted into a residential building in the same way along the lines of a new user, a new office user moves into a building and does a TI, right? So we looked at it as, what if we do a residential TI? What would that really mean? That's the flex flats. And can I share my screen and show a couple slides?
Oh,
is that
absolutely.
possible?
Yeah, please do. Give me 1 second. Okay, you should be able to.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I had to change that setting. So,
okay.
Yeah, while you do, like I said, I was genuinely surprised at how many different R&D concepts that you guys had cooking. And so it is, a lot of them are relevant pre-pandemic, right? Based on trends and the studies that you guys did on the usage of office, how many offices are vacant, right, and not being utilized. And so I think you had come to that determination that there are still going to be opportunities. And then the pandemic hit, and it became the ultimate disruptor that just is accelerating the need for adapting its original use to a more high ROI use. And so, I think it's been great.
And I think that, I mean, I know we're live, and so I'm having some trouble sharing the screen, but let me just describe it in words. So basically, we took a 5-story office building, 20,000 square foot floor plate, which is very typical, and said, how would we change this like a TI project, meaning without reskinning it, without changing the way that mechanical and electrical is distributed, nothing like that. And what we came up with was basically a plan that uses a mixture of deep units and shallow units to kind of maximize the residential floor plan. Because of course, an office floor plate could be like 120 feet wide, and really a typical residential is more like 68 feet wide. So we do have, and this is where we sort of, this is where it becomes a little bit of a what if. We say, well, to use the space effectively, we have to have 60-foot deep units. And if you have any experience in residential, you go, 60-foot deep units, how could that possibly work? Well, interestingly, again, with the idea of sort of some of these new trends emerging, and developers who work in urban environments already know buried bedroom units that are kind of deep on towers often, typical urban scenario. So we took that idea, but made it into a 2-bedroom where you actually have a T-shaped living room and then an office and 2 bedrooms. And the beauty of this is you use a lot of sliding walls to basically make it very flexible. So accommodates a family, check. Accommodates 2 people working from home, check. Converts back to a family apartment in the evening, check. So all of a sudden that depth becomes a program advantage, in a way that you can't adapt a 32-foot deep unit easily to. And so that's pretty exciting. And then in my mind, in 10 years, suppose in 10 years, there's a sudden demand for office building, your asset still has a lot of value. You could do another TI and it becomes an office building. And so it could affect the way that office assets are valued and looked at long term. Because right now, in the short term, they can be a liability if they're not tenanted up already. So
agreed.